So let us read from our book, In Love at Ease. This book is about everyday spirituality with Pramukh Swami Maharaj, who was a spiritual teacher, a guru, as well as a president of a certain organization called the BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha, which centers around the devotion of a prominent figure in the turn of the 19th century known as Swaminarayan. But this book isn't about the organization, nor is it about Swaminarayan or the tradition. It's just about Pramukh Swami and his life. Specifically, it's about all these beautiful stories of how he exemplified the fact that he was truly in love, at ease. And I think we all could learn from that. I'm not affiliated with this organization, but the viewer who sent this book to me for us to read, Sky Guardian, grew up in it. And so I think it'd be a lovely opportunity to extend my gratitude to that tradition. Here we are reading from chapter 2, In Love In Love. I was going to say the title, but second chapter is just the first, In Love. By the way, all the proceeds of this book go to a tribal education in India. Swamishri never passed up the opportunity to acknowledge others' contributions. In the volunteer assemblies after the 1992 Yogi Ji Maharaj centenary celebrations in Gandhinagar and the 1995 Pramukh Swami Maharaj's 75th birthday celebrations in Mumbai, Swamishri had tears in his eyes and choked up while thanking the volunteers. He expressed similar sentiments after both festivals. I want to meet every single one of you. You have done so much for the community and society at large. I feel guilty that I have not been able to thank you in person. Even if I was to bow thousands of times, it would not be enough to acknowledge your service. Please accept my gratitude and apologies. Thank you, Papetto and Beba. Much love to you both. In addition to volunteers, Swamishri acknowledged people for showing him warmth and kindness. When Nareshbhai Patel went to Limbasi for Swamishri's darshan, a witnessing or presence, in 1980, he asked him to thank his brother for introducing him to snow for the first time in 1977. Some people have never seen snow. I certainly have in Canada. Your brother had stopped the car and brought a handful of snow for me to see for the first time when we were passing through Littleton, Colorado. It was such a nice gesture. Please do thank him on my behalf. I think of that day often. Though Swamishri was quick to thank others, he never expected a thank you in return. Swamishri loved without expecting or accepting appreciation. Swamishri's love was impervious to personal difficulty and discomfort. Even when he was ill or suffering, it was as if his love was derived from his body and mind. Perhaps from his soul. On the 5th of February, 1983, Swamishri had a heart attack in the small village of Sundalpura in central Gujarat. The doctors swiftly administered treatment and stabilized him. They decided to transfer him to an intensive care unit with cardiac facilities in Vadodara. A convoy of cars departed from the village with a meticulous plan and confirmed route. Nevertheless, Everyone felt nervous and their minds were unsettled. Swamishri's car suddenly came to a screeching halt. Sadhus from the other cars ran toward their guru's car, fearing the worst. Swamishri appeared calm, but concerned. He asked for Narendraprad. This is going to be a difficult name for me. He asked for Narendraprasadas Swami, Acharya Swami. Acharya Swami, I'm glad they use an alternate title. Acharya Swami rushed to the car window, and Swamishri expressed his unease. I was scheduled to attend an assembly in Anand at Dayabai Gajar's home. Please go there in my place and address the assembly. Apologize to Dayabai and his family. Explain the circumstances. I promised I would be there. While those around Swamishri were worried about his heart, Swamishri's heart was worried about them. Swamishri's view of the divine reached far beyond humans. It included all living beings with whom he coexisted. Swamishri experienced the divine within each soul. Not only was there a sense of appreciation for God's creation within him, but also deep admiration, respect, and compassion. He was constantly aware of the way he and others treated insects, birds, animals, plants, and natural resources. Swamishri communicated his love for animals and nature so that others could also imbibe a similar feeling of respect and compassion. Nilkant Sevadas Swami shared an experience of growing up in suburban Massachusetts, where he was the only Hindu American in his entire school. One of his classmates was gifted a new pet dog, who was named Shiva, after the Hindu deity. The children at the school mocked the only Hindu boy for praying to a god who shared a name with a dog. One afternoon, while riding home from school on the bus, the children started harassing the boy. Hey, my dog's name is Shiva. Why don't you bow down and pray to it? The young boy wanted to avoid confrontation, so when the bus arrived to his stop, he quickly folded his hands before the dog and walked away. Almost 15 years later, Nilkant Sevadas Swami shared this experience of being picked on for being Hindu. Swamishri interjected, Why were you embarrassed? Bhala Manas, my good man, you should have told those boys that Hindus believe that the divine lives in all living beings, including animals, insects, and nature, even in that dog. There is nothing wrong in bowing down to God's creation. I experience the divine in all of you, in all the world's beings. You should do the same. Swamishri taught a valuable lesson in loving animals, but also in responding to ignorance and discrimination with bhakti, loving devotion, and knowledge about one's faith. Swamishri lived by this practical expression of bhakti every day. The inauguration of the CFI in New Jersey during the summer of 1991 included a ceremony in which white doves and pigeons were released from the podium by Swamishri. It symbolized the integration of Indian and American culture and a message of world peace and harmony. Swamishri released the doves, and as they ascended into the air, he kept staring at them. The next day, when Swamishri went to inspect the campus grounds, he noticed that many of the doves had stayed in the campus. Swamishri turned to Vedagnadas Swami and said, "Make sure you provide food for the doves. We used them for our inauguration ceremony. Should we not provide for them afterwards? God has given us the opportunity to serve and provide. Please be sure to feed them for as long as we are here. It is our responsibility, especially until they get settled and make themselves at home in this new environment." So lovely. The pigeons of Trafalgar Square had a similar experience in 1995. The BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Neasden, London, was due to be inaugurated in a few days. As part of the ritual festivities, the sacred images of the mandir's murtis were shared with the city in a procession through the center of London. Swamishri awaited the arrival of the deity's murtis and the grand procession with hundreds of dancing men, women, and children in various cultural outfits and traditions. At the end of the procession, Swamishri called Brahma Viharidas Swami and advised, "There is a nearby place where people feed the pigeons. No? We should feed them today. Thousands have seen and experienced Indian culture and Hindu rituals today. Thousands more will be fed and cared for in the celebration over the next few days. The mandir is a house of God, and God sees no difference between souls. I want you to feed the pigeons on my behalf. Everyone should benefit from the festivities. One of God's homes is being inaugurated this week. Every soul in the land should benefit." Brahma Viharidas Swami rushed to Trafalgar Square and had the youth volunteers buy 5 large bags of seeds for the birds. As he was feeding the birds, Swamishri called him. "Do not be miserly, Brahma Viharidas Swami. Feed them like you are feeding me and feeding Bhagwan Swaminarayan, their Ishta Devata, personal form of God they worship, with love and affection." The video clip showing the sadhus feeding the pigeons at Trafalgar Square captures Bhagwan Swaminarayan's doctrine of Sarva Jiva Hitavaha, for the welfare of all beings, exemplified through Pramukh Swami Maharaj's expression of bhakti. Swamishri did not just see these animals as helpless creatures, but as worthy of life and humane treatment. Swamishri's love was distinct from pity. Swamishri loved them because they too were created and pervaded by God. That is why his love for animals did not stop at the beautiful doves and pretty peacocks, but also extended to insects and bugs that would bite him. Swamishri often instructed his attendants not to kill or swat mosquitoes, but instead brush them away with their hands or a handheld fan. Though in practicality, one may likely kill mosquitoes or other deadly insects, Swamishri's intention was to always respect and appreciate life, even if it was harmful to one's health. For Swamishri, only one who can give life should take life. That's why my mother says, "Put you into this world, I can take you out of it when I'm misbehaving." Radhe or Radhe Kishori. Swamishri's love for life can be explained by an imagined conversation that was observed to have unfolded between him and a large black ant. This should be interesting. Swamishri was at a tree planting ceremony in the village of Bochasan. The organizers passed him a small sapling to place in a hole in the ground. When Swamishri leaned over to place the plant, he saw a large black ant crawling in and around the hole. Maybe it was a queen ant. I know the big ones are often queens. When Swamishri leaned over to place the plant, he spoke. "Dear brother ant, come out. We are about to cover up the hole with the plant and some dirt. You will get trapped inside." Swamishri slowly lowered the edge of his saffron garment and tried to pull the ant out of the hole. After a few attempts, Swamishri was able to move the ant to the side and continue with the planting ceremony. A conversation with an ant might strike most as silly, but it was a private moment that illustrated Swamishri's Jivan Bhavna, life ethos. No form of life was too small or negligible in the eyes for it to be saved. They all had the right to live, and Swamishri did his best to uphold that right. Swamishri was in Sarangpur inspecting a new fruit grove cultivated by a young sadhu, a monk. Swamishri was especially pleased because the grove was nourished by refined wastewater. He admired the various fruits and asked to speak to the caretaker. He inquired about the use of the fruits. "What do you do with all the fruits?" The sadhu replied, "Swamishri, we use much of it in the mandir and sell the rest of it in the nearby city of Botad." Swamishri thought in silence for a few minutes and responded, "I think we should only take what we need for the time being and leave 15 to 20% of the fruit on the trees. We are not getting enough rainfall, and therefore the birds and animals are probably not finding enough food in the region. The fruits will provide some relief to the starving animals and birds. Please also prepare water pots throughout the grove so that birds and animals can quench their thirst in the heat. They need water like we do." Swamishri's respect for nature was clear in his primary principle of unity. Only take what is needed and leave the rest for organic consumption. A few days later, Swamishri visited the temple Gaushala, cowshed or barn, to see if the animals were healthy and if they had suffered during the famine. Fortunately, the cattle in the mandir premises were well cared for and healthy. The cattle in the mandir premises... Oh, I just read that sentence. One of the sadhus reiterated the terrible plight of the cattle in and around the region. Swamishri's eyes teared up. He was walking from one end of the shed to the other when he saw a pile of augat, fodder and food left over after the cattle have eaten. He immediately turned around and asked the young sadhu, "What do you do with this?" The sadhu was surprised. "What can we do with it, Swamishri? The cattle have had their first licks. It is usually just thrown out or eaten by stray animals." Swamishri was not satisfied. Why not share it with animals in the village who do not have owners to provide for them? Please arrange for these scraps to be shared with animals in our village and neighboring villages. They are probably starving and eating trash. There is enough in here to provide for animals in several villages. Those poor animals do not have anyone looking after them. It is our bhakti, our loving devotion, to care for them, provide for them. The most exemplary instance of Swamishri's love, and hello A, for living beings was evident in his response to the Gujarat famine during the late 1980s. Gujarat experienced one of its worst famines over a 3-year span from 1986 to 1988, prior to the building of the Narmada Dam. Swamishri was sorrowful. A dam, I just realized. Narmada Dam Swamishri was sorrowful at the plight of affected people and animals. Farmers did not have fodder and water for their animals and were forced to leave them at government cattle camps. The animals were often packed into tight spaces and lacked nutrition and fodder. BAPS, his organization under Pramukh Swami Maharaj's leadership, rushed into action to provide accommodations, water, and fodder for the animals. It was the passion of Swamishri's personal attention which left an impression on the region's farmers and leaders. Swamishri was so distressed by the plight of the region's people and animals that he skipped his meals. Swamishri grew upset and responded, "Here you are telling me to eat, when people and cattle do not have water to drink. I am suffering from their pain. How can I even swallow a morsel of food? All I think about and pray for are rains. While I walk, sleep, eat, speak, I think of the rains and those suffering from its absence." Swamishri was so moved by the situation that he personally visited several of the cattle camps set up by governmental agencies and other NGOs. The district collector of Rajkot, Mr. Rajiv Thakru, invited Swamishri to the camp in the village of Bedi. When Swamishri's car pulled up to the camp, he noticed a bull of the finest breed standing in a corner, alone and dejected. His eyes welled up. What a beautiful animal! What will happen to him over the next few weeks? And he is not mixing with any of the other animals. Something seems wrong. The administrators brushed it off as being due to the lack of food and separation from his owner. Swamishri silently disagreed. As he was examining the rest of the camp, several of the calves started chasing after him. He asked the camp administrator why the calves did this. "Swamishri, these calves have not had a proper meal and milk in days. They run after anyone who visits the camp, hoping that the newcomer will have brought food for them. We simply do not have enough fodder for all the calves." At this, Swamishri was devastated. He returned to Rajkot, but continued thinking of ways to help the poor animals. The attendants noticed that there was blood oozing from Swamishri's foot and staining the floor. They immediately checked his foot and asked what had pierced his skin between two of his toes. Swamishri did not register the pain or the cut. He was too immersed in the pain of the animals he met. Swamishri immediately called the senior sadhus in Gondal and instructed them to arrange for 6 trucks of fodder for the government camp in Bedi. He also instructed them to increase the capacity of animals at the organization's own camps. "Good evening, Hexagon." The sadhus hesitated. "Swamishri, we would strongly advise against it. It is too costly and too difficult to implement." Swamishri interjected, "Costly? My sadhus and I will beg for alms to assist these cattle and farmers. I have 300 sadhus who will help me raise funds and serve society. How can we sit by and watch these poor animals suffer? These farmers love their livestock just like their own children. Can you imagine how their owners are feeling when they drop off their quote-unquote children at the government camps? It must make their stomachs churn. Please do as I say. We will cut back on spending elsewhere, but nothing is more important than helping these animals for now. These cattle camps are our only projects for the time being. This is our mandir building. This is our shibir, spiritual seminar. This is our bhakti, loving devotion." Swamishri also sent 2 sadhus back to the camp at Bedi to find that lonely bull. He described the bull's appearance and physique. It took the sadhus approximately 2 days to locate that bull in a crowd of nearly 45,000 animals. When they brought the animal back to the mandir, Swamishri took them to nurture it with food, water, and shelter, but also love. The animal was depressed and missed its owner. It could only feel better with attention and love. Throughout those years, Swamishri overlooked and inspired the nurturing and nourishment of hundreds of thousands of animals. He also set up 200 satellite sites to provide meals, cold drinking water, and chas, buttermilk, for close to 1.3 million rural farmers and their families. Swamishri experienced the divine in these rural farmers and their animals. It is no surprise that they too experienced the divine within Swamishri. So thank you for listening, everyone, as we read through In Love at Ease, Everyday Spirituality with Pramukh Swami Maharaj. I recognize that we read for a little longer today, but I think that it felt right, given the theme of all of these. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.